Hello everyone, and welcome to the Distinct Mastering YouTube channel. My name is Freddie. Today I'm going to give you some tips on how you can learn to produce 10 times faster. Let's get right into it. Okay, before we begin, I want to just briefly chat about learning how to produce 10 times faster. Some of these steps and tips that I'm going to give you are going to require you to put in some upfront work. And this upfront work is going to save you a lot of time in the long run. Some of the things that I'm going to teach you, I'm still currently working on myself. I'm putting them into practice, or I'm organizing sounds, but it is the boring stuff. Bear with me, but this is going to speed up your workflow so much to where you're making multiple tracks per week. Let's get right into it. Okay, I've got a blank Ableton session, just like Ableton comes with right out of the box. And the first thing I want to talk about is setting up your templates and your workspace. As you see it right now, the Ableton workspace is pretty generic. You have 2 MIDI tracks, 2 audio tracks, you have 2 returns, 1 reverb, 1 delay. One of the things that I recommend you do is you automatically start to customize this stuff. So I like to move the fader up depending on how big your monitor is. You might want to adjust the volume of the audition. You might want to change the click. Make this yours, you know. Personally, I don't like using the Ableton stock stuff, but you know, I use a lot of my own. But one of the things that I do is I set up a bunch of returns with a bunch of the common effects that I use. You're probably going to be using a lot of the same delays and reverbs, so just set them up, have them ready to go. For me, I use a couple H delays, a couple UAD reverbs. I have, you know, various different delays and different time signatures that are synced to the DAW. So I can just immediately push up a send and have the effects there. It saves me a lot of time from having to go and get plugins all the time. Another thing that I like to do is have a bunch of preset tracks ready to go. So I'll have a bunch of instruments set up. I'll have some audio tracks ready to go, you know, couple instruments loaded up with a piano or basses that I commonly use. And this way it helps speed up my process. I'll even preset groups in some of my templates. You see I have a bunch of templates here. I have preset groups that, you know, for drums and bass, and this way I don't have to do that work later. Moving on into the workspace tips, setting up collections, having a bunch of stuff that you automatically have grouped together, whether that be your effects plugins or dynamics, EQs, etc. This way you are not having to sift through this huge plugin list that you might have, and it just becomes, you know, monstrous when you have a lot of plugins. Now, if you're just a stock Ableton user, still not having to go to the audio effects section or the MIDI effects section and drop these folders down can speed up the process. If you use the same tools all the time, set them up in your collections. Plugins don't have to be the only thing in collections either. You can have sounds or folders, groups of sounds, sample packs, whatever it is. Start setting up those collections. It's super helpful. Another section in Ableton that you can customize is the places down at the bottom left, and you can just drag and drop things right into the places. I have lots of folders that I have set up in my places that I commonly go to, and it helps speed me up. So setting up the workflow on the workspace in Ableton and then saving this as a template is huge. So what you can do is go up to File and you can save live set as template, and boom, you are now going to have that in your templates folder. And if you want to have it load every time, save the live set as a default set, and all of a sudden, every time you open up Ableton, all of these settings that you set up will be there for future use. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is sound organization. There's 2 categories when it comes to sound organization. You have your sound library, which contains your samples and all the sample packs and stuff that you might have. Plus, these days, you might have a Loop Cloud account, a Splice account. So you have a lot of different samples residing all over the place. So typically what I have in this sample packs folder right here is I have a bunch of sample packs organized by company. But that could get a little cumbersome, you know, when you're dropping down the folder and it says the company name, drop down, and then it's like, you know, loops, kicks, all the different folders within that. You have to sift through a lot of folders to get to where you want to go. One of the things I recently started doing was organizing these sample packs, and I wasn't actually moving the sounds around, but I was copying them into a structure that makes a little bit more sense. For example, I have this sample packs organized folder, and I have it all broken down into bass, drums, effects, instruments, vocals, and within each respective folder, I have different things. So like drums has claps, clap builds, drum loops, fills, hi-hats, kicks, etc. And within those folders, I have all of the sounds per pack within a folder. So I've just been breaking up the packs into sounds sets, basically. So if I want to look at all the hi-hats from all of the sample packs, I can do that very quickly. There are tools to help you with this. Some of the tools include XO, which can search sounds by, by similar sounds. And I do have XO. I haven't really used it much. Other tools back in the day, like Audio Finder, it can do both what XO does and is an advanced sample library, similar to an iTunes is for music. And those tools can be very handy, but this is basically kind of doing the same thing and allows me to stay within the Ableton browser. Audio Finder is a cool program. However, the Spot 2 only works with Pro Tools, so that is not very ideal. Now, with having a Splice and Loop Cloud library as well, and then back in the day when sounds.com existed, those libraries reside outside of those folders. So I can go through those libraries as well and start saving them into the sample packs organized folder and breaking them up like I said. And now I have basically duplicate files, which is taking up more space, but a very concise, organized sample library. And sometimes I will go back to the sample packs folder because I know I want to go to a specific pack. So having both options has been a little key for me lately in helping me speed up my workflow and finding sounds that I might not even know existed within my library. Another tip for sound organization is with your synths. I loaded up an instance of Anna here, and the reason is because I've practically went through everything and rated it, except one of the new sound sets that I need to go in and finish. But as you see, I have a bunch of sounds saved as a rating. So when I dip into different categories, I can literally sort by rating and find my favorites. And that has also been helpful in finding really cool sounds fast without having to sift through a ton of presets. If I don't want to have to program something, or if I'm just looking for ideas, it's just like digging through the best of all of the stuff that I thought and liked at that moment. Okay, another tip for you is to have a bunch of MIDI clips ready to go. If you make house music like me, it's common that you're going to have a 4 on the floor kick. So I have a 4 on the floor MIDI that I can just drag and drop in. It's actually already in my template that I load up every time, so it's ready to go. Same with this clap 8-bar. It's just the clap on every offbeat. And then, you can start saving some basic fills, end fills, bass lines, hi-hat patterns, whatever you want. This way you can quickly drag in MIDI clips and just drop in sounds and audition different things to see what works with the track that you're working on. Okay, another tip for you is setting up Ableton's default tracks, and that goes for both audio and MIDI. When you start to load tracks into Ableton, let's say you commonly use an EQ8, you can literally have that on every track that you bring in when you load up an audio or a MIDI track. So for example, how you would do that is you'd set it the way you want, and then you right click and you say save as default audio track. MIDI tracks have the same option. And what this allows you to do is then every time you load an audio track, it automatically has that EQ'd. You see how that just happened because I have it set that way. Notice how my audio track as well has a little bit lower volume on the fader. I've preset it that way. And you could always color code things and make things yours so they always come in the way you want. This way, it saves you a lot of steps in having to load the same plugins that you use every single time. It's much faster to actually delete the plugin than to go and find it and add it manually. Another thing I want to talk about is the Ableton Preferences. You can go into the preferences and customize things to make it really yours. You can customize things like the look and the feel. You can change the default track colors. You can do a lot of different things, zoom the display, change the brightness, and this will load every time you load Ableton. There's some important preferences that I do talk about in that other video, so I do recommend you go check that out because you might miss something important. And last but not least, I have a great arrangement tip that'll help speed up your workflow. I just made a video on this, so I'm not going to talk about it in this video. If you want to learn about the best arrangement tip that I can give you, I'll leave you a link above as well as in the description. Make sure to go check that out. Thank you for watching this video on tips to help you produce 10 times faster. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and the bell notification will keep you up to date. My name is Freddie from Distinct Mastering, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.